Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. Thank you all for joining me and giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time. I really, really appreciate it. Today's show is titled Live, the War at Your Door. Now, we're going to talk about some economics. We're going to talk about some geopolitics. We're going to talk about the political scene, being that the election or selection for the American president is right around the corner, okay? And we have each side, it is so divisive that each side won't accept the victory of the other, right? And every one of them is accusing the other one of irregularities, vote tampering, and all types of foolishness. Now, I want you to see how this looks in the eyes of the world. America won't accept the election in Georgia, right? Because their candidate lost. They'll accept the election in Moldova because through all of this funny movement, their candidate won, even though a large portion of the Moldovan people in the diaspora were not allowed to vote if they lean towards Russia. It's crazy, right? And America says those are free and fair elections. Check it. So as long as their candidate wins, it's a free and fair election. But listen, now the chaos of regime change, destabilization, irregularities in elections, and government overthrow has come back home. Those chickens have come home to roost. And you have Donald Trump and the Republicans saying that they are going to win and that the only way Harris can win is through vote rigging. You have Harris and her team saying the exact same thing about Donald Trump and his team. You have a host of people saying that Donald Trump is against the deep state, but we have no evidence of that, though. You have every alternative media against Harris. And let me tell you something. I have no dog in the hunt, so let me tell you something. I don't care if either one of them win. So I'm going to put it like that. I don't care if either one. Trump may be a little more outspoken, so you may be able to deal with him a little better than all of the teleprompter reading and all of this stuff from Kamala, okay? Now, when you look at the situation, this is the recipe for insurrection, rebellion, and civil war at home, because each side is saying that they won't accept the results if the results are not what they want them to be. You have each side saying that the other ones are rigging polls or stealing votes. Think about what I'm saying to you, because sometimes people don't sit back and look at the big picture because of their religious affiliation, because of their ethnic affiliation, because of their political affiliation. Sometimes that skews and blurs the vision of people. But I want you to look for 1 second at this. America claims to be the beacon of hope and light and the beacon of democracy for the entire world, right? And at one time, she was able to Walt Disney the world, meaning with this make-believe stuff, and trick them. She was able to trick the world that she was this beacon of hope and light and this fountain of democracy that everyone in the world should pattern and model themselves after. But now the whole world is looking at the system. The whole world is looking at what is happening within America's borders as she tries to dictate and determine what goes on outside of her borders. The whole world is watching and saying, hey, maybe democracy ain't for me. Maybe this form of government that allows for corporations to write bills at the expense of the people. Maybe this system that always talks about the corruption of Ukraine and everybody else, maybe this system isn't for me when I sit back and look and say, hey, you have donors, you have private donors, you have what they call and it escapes me right now, but you have people that go to what, lobbyists. Now listen, this in the West, this is respectable. You have paid people to go and lobby or paid for votes from congressmen and congresswomen. And that's not corruption. These people know that you need money to run your campaign. So they go and lobby you and promise you X amount of gifts, X amount of money to write laws or let them write laws, and you stamp the law, and then you put it before Congress and it goes to the White House and it's passed. That's not corruption. Even when the masses of the people are against those type of laws, you have the medical industry writing the laws. I'm talking, when I say the medical industry, I'm talking about the corporations writing the laws for insurance policies, for insurance coverage. That's not corruption. See, in this season, as we move closer and closer to 2025, the 60 to not exceed 70-year rule, grace period, and when I'm going to talk deep about that, America is being exposed. This is something that nobody likes to talk about. It is being exposed as a hypocrite. On the one hand, you get all of these appropriation bills for Ukraine, for Israel, for all of these other, but you can't pay reparations to the only ethnic group that has never received reparations. The Japanese received them. You pay reparations to a people that you didn't even do nothing to. Israel gets billions of dollars every year. But you can't give it to the descendants of people who served in your fields for 365 years. The hypocrisy of a nation. The hypocrisy of a nation. The whole world is watching this in real time. You want to control what a woman does in her house, but you're letting Nazis run free in the streets in Ukraine. You're trying to tell a woman that is born, naturally a woman, that she can't look at other people who claim to be women in a different way, but you're allowing Nazis. You are arming, training, and funding Nazis in Ukraine. Isn't that crazy? But remember that there was a fascist coup against President Roosevelt in the earlier 20th century, and none of the people who tried to overthrow Roosevelt with this fascist coup went to jail. And so we're dealing with these people who are the descendants of those people who tried to overthrow Roosevelt. Nobody talks about that either. Why? Shout out to everybody that's joining me. Shout out to everybody who will join me. Shout out to everybody on all of the platforms: Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Twitter, the Red Pill Diaries, the Red Pill Journals, BitChute, Locals. We got disconnected from Locals a few seconds ago. I don't know why, but we did. So in this season, the whole world is getting a very in-depth look at the happenings in the American empire. And this is causing a lot of them to start moving back away from wanting to associate and wanting to be like the empire. Do you know this is one of the main reasons why America's mad? Because she thinks that she has the inherent right to shape, mold, and fashion every nation in her image and in her likeness. You must be a democracy. Why? You have to be these Western values, these U.S. and European values. You know how they like to say that all the time. Why? Why? Why must this be a one-size-fit-all in a world that has a circumference of 25,000 square miles and weighs 6 sextillion tons, a unit followed by 21 zeros? Why must, in this grand scheme, this big planet, must everybody fit into the mold of America? We're on a planet traveling at 1,037 and 1/3 miles per hour, and you're telling me that we've got to be in lock and step with you all the time? I'm asking. The world is now seeing that America, as she often talked about that city sitting on the hill, they're seeing that it's crumbling down and it's falling down the mountain. No morals, no ethics, nothing to stand on, nothing. Look how they're, listen to me. Let me stop for a minute. I want you to think about this for a minute. How in good conscience can you appropriate another $3, $4, $5 billion to Israel? And there's massive homelessness and hunger in America. How could you make that? Well, Israel is a part of our national security. There's no nation on the earth that is supposed to be more important than the people in your nation. Right? That's why you hence the word national in the phrase national security. You are supposed to go all out the way you're going out for Israel, the way you're going out for Ukraine. That is the way you're supposed to go out for the people who have selected or elected these officials, who have put these officials in office, who pay taxes. You have a massive influx of homeless veterans. That in itself is a sore eye and a disease on the very heart of the American empire. On the one hand, you talk patriotism, and on the other hand, you neglect and refuses to reflect on the sacrifices of your veterans who were willing to lay down their lives for you. And when they get back to the country, they're in jail. They have lost relevance in your life because they're no longer pawns of your war, so you don't focus on them. They don't get the mental help. They don't get the financial help. Some of them have to reside on food stamps. Some of them are out in the streets. Some of them have been broken and hurt so bad that they're addicted to alcohol or some kind of substance, and you have no compassion about those people, and yet you're talking about patriotism. Go straight to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight to hell for all your patriotism that you're talking. Mothers and children, fathers and children are out on the street, have to choose between eating and paying rent. So in this election season, think about all of the promises that each and every one of them often promise. But nothing rings true. Because America is still in a death spiral economically. We're going to go into something. Let me shout out a couple people in the chat real quick, and then I want to read something. I haven't read this. I just saw this article pop up. Right? And oh my God, shout out to Joel Bradford. Oh, and man, listen. This Dolan, come on, man. Dolan and I had a real good time on the channel member and Patreon stream yesterday. Real good. Shout out to my guy Dolan Duckett in the building. Shout out to Vera in the building. All right. So let me go to something real quick. There's an article on the economic collapse blog, and please hit the like button or the dislike button, whichever one you want to do. Just hit something. You know, be in motion, contribute in some way, contribute with happiness or unhappiness, whatever. Just hit the like or dislike button. Just do something. All right. There's an article on the Economic Collapse blog. And this article was published yesterday. Come to think about it. And it's called A Lockdown Economy Without the Lockdowns. That's what it says. And then it says 48% of U.S. small businesses couldn't even pay their rent last month. Now, let me tell you something. Everybody is having problems financially. Why is it? I want to ask you something. Why is it that paid officials, which their salaries are like 100 and some thousand, 200 and some $1,000 for these congressmen and so, why is it that they become millionaires after a year or two? Huh? You don't think the influx of money sparks corruption and then make people forget their loyalties? You don't believe that? In the good old democracy called America? Huh? And America is a republic, by the way, for those of you who may have forgotten that. She's supposed to be a republic. All right. So it says, and I'm going to read this with you, just read a little bit of it, just to show you where we are in dealing with this great old democracy called America. All right. And this capitalistic society. All right. When nearly half of all small businesses are that they can't even pay their rent, you have an enormous economic crisis on your hands. Stop right there. Well, not just small businesses, the small people. Do you know people making under $200,000, which you never thought that you would hear, are struggling? So if the people making $200,000 to $200,000 are struggling, what do you think the people making under $100,000 are doing? And that is the majority of the people of America. So now we have people struggling from $0 to $200,000, okay? And now we have small businesses struggling. And small businesses are the backbone of the so-called American economy, okay? So let's read a little bit more. The last time that we witnessed anything like this was during the peak of the COVID pandemic. Oh, I shouldn't have said COVID because they'll probably ban me for saying COVID. In the free America, right? Oh, man, come on, stop this. Yeah, it says, but here in 2024, we don't have a major global health crisis to blame for our catastrophic economic performance. In March 2021, 49% of small business owners in the United States could not make their rent payments. But that was because so many states had instituted lockdowns, which were severely harming the economy. In September 2024, 48% of small business owners in the United States could not make their rent payments. But there is no excuse this time around. Stop right there. Now, if 48% couldn't make their rent payment in their businesses, what would be the number of the average person that can't make their rent or mortgage payments and they don't have the resources of that small business? I'm asking. So when we look at the small business being in trouble, that is a telltale sign of a death spiral of the American economy. Do you understand? And that is one of the reasons why the pundits, the politicians, and all of these prognosticators do not focus on that. They believe that they can kickstart the economy through war. Look at the money that they've made off Ukraine. Look at the money that they're making in the Middle East. Look at the money that they're making as they start trying to stoke troubles in Georgia, not the state of Georgia, but the Georgian Republic, the former Soviet Republic, and in Moldova, and in Armenia, right? The weapons manufacturers are making out like fat rats. I was looking at something. I wish I still had that clip real quick. Where is it? Ah, man, hold on. U.S. Contractors. Can I charging huge price fees? What? It's on UPN. Where is it? There was 3 articles that came out. I'm gonna find it. It's in my emails. I'm gonna go to my email shortly, probably when the clip is playing. But there was a few days ago, there was an article, 3 articles came out, and they were talking about the Pentagon and the misappropriation of money, and how all of these cost overruns, and how they were paying, if I'm not mistaken, hundreds or even thousands of dollars for like toilets and stuff. No lie, adding up to billions and billions and billions of dollars. Billions in overrun. Why? And I want to ask you something before we go further, because I'm a rational guy. Let's just say the U.S. government has awarded a contract to Raytheon, and Raytheon has promised to produce X amount of weapons at this current price. And so you go into this contract and you say, okay, we've already projected into the future. Your deliveries will be this, and this. And this weapon system, we want X amount of it, so we agree to pay $80 billion. Now, you have the weapon systems 5 and 10 years behind schedule, with cost overruns of anywhere from 50 to 150%. Why can't the government find Raytheon and force them to cover all the costs and take that money that they would give to Raytheon and inject it into the veterans that need the money? That would be a penalty that will keep them on. You can't do that in China. You're not going to do that in Russia. You don't get away with that in North Korea. That's fleecing the people. But in the so-called incorruptible or uncorruptible land of the free, all we see is massive corruption and a disregard for the sanctity and safety of life. Everything is put behind materialistic stuff. Everything. And they call this a God-fearing country. When, number 1, it's about money. Number 2, it's about money. Number 3, it's about power. And number 4, it's about influence. After all of that, then the lives of the people matter. You have a health system that never cures the diseases, only treats it so that they can make money. If I'm paying premiums on my insurance, when I have to use the insurance, I shouldn't have to pay a copay. You're fleecing me twice over. And then after the copay, I go see the doctor, I have to pay what? For the prescriptions. In other countries that they call tyrannical countries, you don't see that. That's crazy. And people have accepted that because it has become the norm. They don't think outside of the box and say, these people are looking at my willful ignorance and they are continuing to exploit me. And now we're looking at the war, the economic, the political, the medical, the cultural, and the geopolitical war at America's door. There's something in it. Let me play something for you guys. Where is it at? Let me scroll down 1 second. I want to play this for you, and I'll be right back on the other side of this clip.
Alexander Markovich, the head of the Suvorov Institute organization in Vienna. Many thanks for your time. It's good to see you. So we have this evidence emerging that Western fighters are directly involved in attacking Russia from Ukrainian territory. What do you make of it?
I'd say we can make out of that the West still is and still wants to further escalate the war against Russia in Ukraine. And yeah, the newest findings of American fighters inside the conflict are just the proof that NATO is already directly involved, of course, only with special forces, with officers, in order to prolong this proxy war against Russia. And I think it's just another proof for the double standards and the hypocrisy of the West. For example, when we remember the hysteria surrounding allegations of North Korean troops participating in the battle for Ukraine, we could hear about Russia escalating the war. But of course, when the West is doing this escalation himself, Western media remain silent, and American politicians are not asking about why the US is actually escalating this war since day one.
According to the FSB, the killed foreigners were specialists in sabotage operations behind enemy lines, like capturing military airfields. Indeed, one of those killed apparently had a tattoo of an elite US Special Forces reconnaissance unit. I'm just wondering why you think strategic tasks would be entrusted to mercenaries instead of Kiev's own troops.
Well, I guess that all these so-called mercenaries are basically Western soldiers in disguise, especially from Western elite units like parachutists, for example. And therefore, they have more combat experience, or at least have better equipment, better connected to Western secret services. And therefore, of course, NATO is still leading the Ukrainian war plans, the Ukrainian war preparations, all those missions. They are simply directly out from a NATO playbook, and it's not independent Ukrainian armies or strategists formulating all these plans, but they are coming directly from the West. So it's actually a joke if you would be claiming that Ukraine is leading this war independently. Nothing is further from the truth, but the war itself is basically led from Washington and also from London to a certain degree, in order to cause as many Russian casualties as possible.
What do you make of the timing? Because this does come as the Ukrainian military is retreating while taking mounting losses in the Donbass. And meanwhile, we've got some Western countries flip-flopping on the prospects of peace talks. The German Chancellor is now saying that negotiations will have to take place eventually. So what do you make of the trend?
Well, as we all know, Ukraine is losing. It's losing badly, and it's definitely fighting to the last Ukrainian, as we could see in these talks about also recruiting 18 years old for the Ukrainian army. And it's, of course, no coincidence that these commando actions are happening right now, since Kiev and the West are steadily losing. So they need some victories in order to present them in the Western press and show how weak and spent the Russian military. So you have all these discussions in Western media that Russia has lost 600,000 soldiers, which is, of course, made up. And I guess nearer to the truth would be the fact that Ukraine has lost around 600,000 troops. So the West needs to somehow divert the attention of also its own public from all these losses and present some at least propaganda victories, like, for example, making incursions into the old Russian territories. So they think you can present some victories in order to keep their own citizens spending money and also their own armament industry happy to a certain degree.
You know, Russia recently ratified a collective defence pact with North Korea, and some Western media outlets claim that the DPRK troops are already near the border with Ukraine. The Kremlin has not confirmed this, while saying it's none of the West's business. What's your assessment of that?
Well, I guess we know that Russia and North Korea have both, or the Democratic Republic of Korea, have both a long history of friendship, dating back to the days of Cold War. but especially having been intensified since the end of the Cold War. And yeah, if you look at this friendship and defense treaty, it would be actually only logical that at least some North Korean troops participate in this newest war also, because we all know that North Korea still has some open business together with the southern occupied part of the Korean peninsula and the United States in general. So I guess also North Korea maybe understands as one of the few countries in the world the best that it's necessary and really dire needed that we build up a multipolar world, a more just world, and that we end American imperialism. So it would at least not be a surprise to me if North Korea also participates in the conflict for the future of Ukraine, since it knows that the West must be defeated in its imperialist aggression, may it be in Ukraine or may it be on the Korean peninsula.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. It's good to hear from you. Alexander Markovich, the head of the Suvorov Institute organization in Vienna. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Also, while we're on this and we're watching the clip from RT, I want to tell everybody, join us. I believe it's Thursday. We're going to have a show tomorrow, but join us Thursday at 5 Central Time. We'll have RT journalist Helen Beninsky back on the program, okay? Working, man, working. Anyway, I want to go back to something, okay? I told you I would find it. While this was going on, I told you I would go in my emails and I would find it. So I found one of the articles. And this is the headline. This is from AP, which is the Associated Press, okay? So this is not anti-American, anti-Western. This is pro-American, pro-Western, okay? And the title of the article is it, and matter of fact, it's in the politics section of AP. And the title of the article is Pentagon Audit Says Boeing Cleaned Up on Air Force parts, including soap dispensers, marked up 8,000%. Now, if I was a veteran, I would be Superman. If I was a taxpayer, which I am, I would be Superman. Let's go into the article. I never read the article. I saved it. I read that headline. I told you I just saved things, and I'll go back later. So this was published October the 31st at 11:39 a.m. Pacific time. And it says, Boeing overcharged the Air Force nearly $1 million for spare parts on C-17 cargo planes, including, listen to this, an 8,000% markup for simple lavatory soap dispensers, according to the Pentagon's Inspector General. Nobody in Boeing goes to jail, does it? Right? But they'll put you in jail for gas gouging or for any price gouging on anything. But Boeing and all of these others, none of them go to jail. And remember that Lloyd Austin, you know, the War Secretary of the United States, sits on the board of a couple of these companies. All right. Nobody goes to jail. Let's listen to this. Let's go a little further. The Defense Department's auditor reviewed prices paid for 46 spare parts on the C-17 from 2018 to 2022 and found that 12 were overpriced and 9 seemed reasonably priced. It couldn't determine the fairness of prices on the other 25 items. You know why? Because they were so outrageous that they knew that if they determined the prices of them, they would have to file charges, or else it would be an outrage. Let's go further. The Office of the Inspector General said it reviewed the soap dispenser prices after getting a hotline tip. Boeing disputed the findings. We are reviewing the report, which appears to be based on an in-app comparison of the prices paid for parts that meet aircraft and contract specifications and designs versus basic commercial items that would not be qualified or approved for use on the C-17. That is lingo for, hey, you can't compare our flat screen TV that we put in this house to the flat screen TV that you use in your house. Yeah, you may have paid $300 for the 30-inch, but for our 30-inch, because it has so much deep color, that we're justified in charging you $25,000 for it. That's what he's talking about. That's what they're doing. They don't respect your intelligence. I'm telling you this. So I want to scoot down a little bit, and I want to read another part that as I was skimming, I saw something. It says, since 2011, the U.S. government has awarded Boeing more than $30 billion in contracts to purchase these needed spare parts for the C-17 and be reimbursed by the Air Force. I'll stop right there. Now, I want to go to something real quick. I'm going to bring something up on the screen. Remember, that's $30 billion, okay? All right. I'm going to bring something up on the screen. Give me 1 second. Share screen. Share screen. Boom. Here we are. Something will be popping up on your screen in just a second. All right? Just a second. Hopefully. There we are. There we are. Do you see that at the top? The title, how much would it cost to end homelessness in America? Remember, we have all of these charities that collect millions and millions of dollars a piece every year, some monthly. And we have all of these so-called U.S. banks. And when I'm talking about banks, I'm talking about I'm not talking about banks that you deposit your money to. I'm talking about like similar to food banks, where people donate money and these banks distribute money, so-called, to the poor for heating, for medicine, and all of this stuff. Now, here it is. I want you to pay close attention to this. The question is asked, how much would it cost to end homelessness in America? And remember, America always talks about her national security. What's more in the national security interest of America than to have her people living and eating right? There's an old African proverb that says, if there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. So if you're not focused on eliminating poverty here, because the poverty has been eradicated, right? You don't have to worry about people, the what they call it, the Russian interference in politics. We know that's a bunch of crock, but real. You don't have to worry about the Iranian messing with U.S. politics, right? Because everybody would be satisfied with the way that the government governs the people. Listen to this, in some shape, form, or fashion. But let's go further down, because we're talking about $30 billion that was given to Boeing, okay? It says, learn more about the cost to end homelessness in America and get statistics about the problems unhoused populations face. Now, listen to this. This is not from Rashid. This is not even from this person. This is not even from Global Giving. This is from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, okay? This is a government assessment. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would cost $20 billion, $20 billion, to end homelessness in the United States. That's $10 billion less than what they gave Boeing. $10 billion less than what they gave Boeing. Right there. This is not me. That is the government saying that. They did a multiple studies, and they came up, after they put the studies together, they came up and said, to eradicate homelessness in the United States, it would take $20 billion. They have given that to Israel this year alone with weapons and emergency appropriation bills and all of this stuff. Hold on 1 second. I don't know why people call me and they know that I'm live on the air. That is absolutely crazy. But anyway, it's probably one of those solicitors. I know if you're like me and you live around, every time you turn around, a solicitor is calling. I know that. But anyway, listen, 10 billion less than the cost overruns that America gave to Boeing. Now, Boeing is one company. So think about all of the cost overruns for all of the other companies that build weapon suits and weapon suites for the United States. With these 8,000 and 10,000 and 20,000% markups. If that is not the epitome of corruption, tell me what is. And it does not just happen under Joe Biden. It happened under Donald Trump. It happened under, I hate to say this guy's name because I got real beef with it. It happened under Obama. It happened under president after president after president after president. Do you know that the lobby, the so-called Zionist lobby, went to work on former two-time Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney because she demanded to know where the trillions of dollars went missing, and she was grilling Don Rumsfeld and his crew about the missing trillions of dollars. And the Jewish lobby, and I'm not talking about all Jews, so YouTube do not take this as an ethnic or racial slur against them. I'm talking about the lobby. Okay? I know how you like to splice words, and then you already told that I'm on thin ice. So listen, she was grilling about the money, and then the lobby picked another black candidate that would do the bidding that they wanted, and they ran that candidate first. They redistricted some of the area, and then they ran that candidate against Cynthia McKinney to unseat her. Because first, she didn't want to swear an allegiance or an oath. She was the one who revealed that when you become a congressperson in the United States, the first oath that you swear to is to Israel. She was the one who revealed that. Not to your constitution, not to your constituency, but to Israel. And when she revealed that, and then she started taking them to task about all of these missing billions and trillions, they ran another candidate that looked like her, that made some of the similar promises, but lived up to none of it to unseat her because they saw her as a threat to that money. If what I'm saying is not true, it'll be easy to disprove what I'm saying. Go call Cynthia McKinney. Ask her. Ask her if I'm lying. So, and I should say the Honorable Cynthia McKinney. I've been knowing Cynthia for a while, but the Honorable Cynthia McKinney. This is what I'm saying. So billions that you've given to other people, and all it would take for the government to have compassion is to take 20 and eradicate homelessness here in America. See, because if you eradicate that homelessness, even if the economy collapses, guess what happens? The people at the bottom would have more faith that the government would be able to take care of certain things. That now you don't have a me against the government attitude, but you are so arrogant and so short-sighted that you are putting in place all of the things needed for the detonation of this society. You've been smitten with derision. Every turn you take, you think it's the right turn. And when you go down the street, you wind up hitting a brick wall. Because you refuse to listen to sound reasoning and sound judgment. What's so important about Israel that's not important about that person under that bridge in your own state, own country? What's more important about Israel to deliver them emergency money when you haven't even delivered the people under the bridge or under the interstate or on the streets money? As a matter of fact, they are making it illegal. In this city, they have passed an ordinance or are passing an ordinance to make it illegal for homeless people to sleep on public property. Now, I want to just address that for a minute, right? Public property. Public property means that the public's taxes paid for that, not the government, but the public taxes paid for the property and the upkeep. And even though we may not want the homeless people on those properties, they are part of the public, right? So they have a right to that. Where are they going to sleep at? If they can't sleep in the streets, you're not giving them a place to stay. You're not helping them out. Huh? So they can flood other people's neighborhoods. But you want to let downtown look good. You got money for parties and parades and Mardi Gras and all of this stuff, but you don't have a penny to help these people. Man, stop this. Stop it. Oh, boy, I tell you. And that's why the war is at the door of America now. Let me go into this chat real quick. And then we'll go a little bit more. Ping One shouts out to Ping One. Peace, everyone. Breeze. He says, good to catch the show live. Good for you to be here live. Thank you so much. My guy is in the building again. Perseverance Chameleon. Salute to Rashid and everyone. Dolan, man, you are always. My screens went black over here. I had to hit the thing real quick. Random is in the building. All right. M Sparks is in the building. P1 says KK Canadian Shane. Dolan says yup. And Random says only 8,000%. Wait until they discover the real price on their ammo, tank shells, for example. Absolutely. But that was just they weren't talking about all of the stuff. They would, like I said, they would not talk about the stuff that was so outrageous and so egregious that it would force the hand of the government to do something. They were only talking about stuff that they believed that they could talk about to the public and get away with not prosecuting the corporations. Now, do you remember when they sent out these checks to everybody, right? In the United States. Oh, Ping, I gotta say this. Boom. Ping has it right and exact. This is a mic drop moment. Boom. Ping says the homeless don't have lobbyists. Absolutely, Ping. Absolutely. Listen, these people, I got to get to something. These people, they don't care about your livelihood. They don't care about the well-being of the people because they put so much stock in weapons. Because it's about military prestige. It's about being able to flex your muscle. Yeah. Some of you have family like that. Let me show you. This is the mind, and I told you it's government, and it permeates down to the bottom. You have family members that you were super close with, friends that you were super close with. You guys might have shared some of the same clothes, might have ate off the same plate, got spankings or whippings together, hung out together, and both of you, as you're growing up, both of you trying to find your path or whatever, and their path took them to riches. Even though you're trying to do, but it just so happened the stars aligned and they became rich. They then will do for everybody else but you. They will help everybody else but the one that stood by them when they had nothing. Isn't that the mind of the government? They will help with the democracy of Romania and Armenia, right? And Moldova and Georgia and Ukraine, right? But how dare you question America's democracy? We will deplatform you. We will censor you. We will ban you. We will ban you off every platform. How dare you do that in the land of the free, where free speech is supposed to be guaranteed, right? The hypocrisy. See, what it is when they reach a certain level, they do this because they want people in these positions so that the people can look up to them for help or up to them in awe, because they have become inebriated off the money and the position that they have. It is like that for the average person. So what do you think it's like for multiple people in government who were picked on when they were kids, or who did not get the girls, or who didn't have the clout, or didn't have the pool, or whatever? When they get that power, they become drunk on that power. And everything else is secondary to maintaining that power and that wealth. Because if they don't maintain that power and that wealth, they look at themselves as if they were back in that area when they had no power and wealth, and they were just one of many people and didn't stand out. You understand? That's how things are going. And so when we look at the U.S. government, right, we see the war coming to our door. Let me play something for you guys. Hey, hit the like button, everybody. We have 45 people in the 46 people in the that's watching right now. Hit the like button or the dislike button. Just do something. Hit the like button or the dislike button. I want to play a little short clip. I'm gonna play a couple short clips, right? Listen to what Mr. Trump has to say. And I'm not just playing this because it's election season. I'm just playing this because it has to do with war. All right. Listen to this, 38 seconds.
And, you know, number one, it's very dangerous. Number two, a lot of people get killed. And number three, I mean, it's very, very expensive. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We go, you know, it used to be you go to war, to the victor belong the spoils, right? In other words, if you beat a country, you own that country, you take the oil. We go to war, we bomb the crap out of it, and then we leave. You know, it's almost like, what are we doing? What's going on? We bombed the whole Middle East, and then we left. What did we get? We got nothing. We destroyed. I mean, we bombed the hell out of everything.
Now, this man says that U.S. bombed the hell out of the Middle East, and they left. First of all, he was right on one part of it, where the U.S. bombed the hell out of the Middle East. But he's wrong about the U.S. leaving. Have they left Iraq? Nope. Have they left Turkey? Nope. Are they out of Jordan? Nope. Have they left their illegal occupation of Syria? Nope. What about the United Arab Emirates? Nope. What about Qatar? Nope. What about Arabia? Nope. What about that island that they are occupying that belongs to the Yemeni people? Nope. What about Somalia? Nope. So America has not left. What it is she's being challenged now by other powers. They're saying, listen, you know what? Let's embolden. Let's give a little training, a little intelligence, a little money, and some arms to these people. We know they can't just beat the empire, but they can give them some hell. And so all of these brush fires across the Middle East are to remove the American and British Empire. And it's starting to weaken them. And while these are going on, America is being challenged in Eastern Europe, where she has no business being. Thousands of miles from her shore. She has no right to be in Latin America. She has no right to be in Africa. She has no right to be in West Asia. She has no right whatsoever. But because of her mind that manifests destiny, that I am that exceptional nation, I can do whatever I want to do. You can't have any spheres of influence, but I have the influence around the globe, and I'll do any and everything to maintain it. And so Trump, when he's talking, unlike with Kamala, sometimes truth slips out. And he tells you, hey, we bombed the hell out of that area. And this is what he said. And when he was talking about we left, he was talking about we left without the oil, without the gas, without domination. That's why he said, you know, it used to be when you bomb a country and you win the war, to the victor goes the spoils, right? I bet you guys didn't know this. All right, I'm gonna bring this up to you guys about Trump. What he just said is in line with what he did behind closed doors with Syria. Trump was negotiating with the Syrian government behind closed doors when he was president. And I got this on good word. I'm telling you, solid information. Okay, that he was the Trump administration were negotiating with the Syrian Arab Republic, and this is what their demands were, which was outrageous. We will remove our troops from a third of the Syria, meaning that we will. I think somebody's knocking on my door. Everybody, I'll be right back with you. Hold on one second. Let me play a clip. It might be UPS, but I'm going to come back to this clip. So hold on one second. Just let me play part of a clip, and I'll be right back because it may be something that must be delivered. Hold on.
Well, our stance here is well known. Hardly will I be able to add much. The baseline of our position was that we need to put into practice the UN Security Council resolution on building two states, Israel and the state of Palestine. It is the root cause of all problems. And I'm confident this will deserve our attention during the BRICS summit. By the way, I invited the president of Palestine too, for him.
Back. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with me. Now, I haven't forgot what I said, but that was exactly what I said out there. Anyway, he was negotiating to leave that third of Syria that the U.S. occupies. But here's what he wanted, which is out flipping outrageous, right? But in the mind of the empire, it's just normal for Syria to guarantee that the U.S. would get revenues from all oil and gas sales from Syria in perpetuity, or for as far as the eye can see, for as long as the eye can see. That's do you know that's robbery? That's theft. That's grand theft, right? At the barrel of the gun, telling the Syrian government, we will remove our forces, but we have to be guaranteed a portion of oil sales and gas sales and the sale of your wheat and corn. You know that? That's crazy, right? But Mr. Trump demanded that because he said that America paid the price with blood in Syria. Nobody asked you to go into Syria. You went in there illegally. Nobody asked you to stay in Syria. You're staying in there illegally. So what you're paying is what you're paying. It's not on the back of the Syrians. They have asked on multiple occasions for you to remove yourself from illegally occupying their country. But those were some of the stipulations for the removal of U.S. troops, and Assad and the Syrian government refused. They said, no, we will not bow to those dictators. We will not accept that at all. Think about that. That's their oil, that's their gas, those are their crops. And America wanted a portion of the revenue from that stuff. An international thug, that's what she is, right? But I want to go back to something. And that's why Trump says that usually to the victor goes the spoils, right? That's what he was talking about. That they wanted Iraq's oil. He's openly stated that. They wanted Syria's oil and gas and wheat and corn. Do you know the Syrian government has to import oil and gas from Iran every month? Because the United States is fleecing the Syrian people, and they are taking truckloads of oil and gas into Iraqi Kurdistan, you know, the Kurds are real close with the U.S. and the Kurds are real close with the Israelis. And they are refining it, and then they are transporting it back up through Turkey and around through the Mediterranean down to Israel. And some of it is free and some of it is pennies on the dollar. Stolen oil and gas. Nobody talks about it. You cannot continue to do wrong to others and expect everything to be right for you. There's an old saying, what goes around comes around, and sometimes it comes around 2 or 3 times and much harder, right? And I think that the American elite believe that they are the exception to the rule laid at the base of the universe, which is that any action will receive an equal or greater reaction. So America has been active for decades, centuries even. And now what we're living in is the time of the reaction. So you see, 30 years ago, Israel could have bombed and killed Iranian people in Syria. There would be no reaction. They could have bombed Hezbollah. There would be hardly any reaction. They could have done what they've done. But now we're in the reaction part. People forget about that. They think that the reaction is the action. That no. Oh, we can't believe what they've done on October 7th. Well, what the hell did you do on October 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and the 2nd and 3rd first? That led to the 7th. We can't wipe that out to justify what you want on October 7th. Scientists don't work like that. That's what's led to so many discoveries, because they look at where we are and then they go back in time and they find out what was and how it was. And then it gives them a glimpse of what will be in the future. We don't think like that because they've dumbed us down in such a way that if they bombed us on October 7th. They did. That was heinous. Nobody should go through that. Okay, but what have you done on the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st, and then the months and the years prior to that that led up to the 7th? See, that gets swiped away. Swiped away. And so when we're looking at what's going on in North Africa and the Middle East and what's going on in the Balkans and the Caucasus, one has to understand that this was not an unprovoked attack by Russia in Ukraine. Russia, even before Russia went into Ukraine, they tried to negotiate. They said, listen, every time we negotiate, you flaunt our interests. You continue to push up to our borders, violating every norm that we agreed on. And then they got so fed up, they said, listen, forget this. We have a document now. We want you to look at this. You have X amount of time to look at it and accept it. If you don't accept it, there will be a military technical response to it, because it had passed the point of just open negotiations, because America and the West continued to mock Russia, continued to push Russia to the background, because they were living on the intelligence that they had on Russia 30 years ago, that Russia was a broken power. Russia did not have the military wherewithal or the capability to rebuff NATO. Russia did not produce weapons that were comparable to NATO's weapons, right? And so when America and NATO ignored Russia, Russia took the military technical response. And that's what we've been living in since then, the military technical response to all of the egregious and provocative moves and policies by the West. They don't tell you that in the news, but that is the reality of it. And now we're coming to find out that Russia is not that backward power. Russia has weapons that America and the West don't have. Russia has a fighting force with a fighting spirit to defend their lands at all costs. Russia has destroyed the NATO prepared, armed, trained, financed, and aided Ukrainian armed forces 3 times over and is now doing it for the 4th time. But if we were listening to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Sullivan and Anthony Blinken, there was no reason for Russia to invade Ukraine. This was unprovoked. So putting missile bases in Ukraine, putting NATO bases in Ukraine, that was not provocative. Did you know the reason that Russia took Crimea, even though Crimea was once part of Russia? Do you know the main reason that Russia took Crimea? It's because NATO had drawn up in their plans that once they overthrew the government of Yanukovych, and once they put in their people, they were going to demand that Russia give up the naval facilities for its Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. I forget how you pronounce it. In that region. That's why Russia acted, because NATO wanted to take that facility and turn it into a NATO facility and control the entirety of the Black Sea. Nobody talks about that. But Russia is the aggressor. America says Russia has no right to a sphere of influence. Man, let me hold on 1 second, everybody. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Oh, hold on 1 second, everybody. Let me go to something. Let me try to pull something up for you. Let's see. Russia has no right to a sphere of influence. Let's see if it'll pull up. If you put in that, all right. Let me see something real quick. Let me see if I can put it in here. If you put in that, because I'm on like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on 5 screens, right? If you put in Russia has no right to a sphere of influence, and you scroll down, let's see. 1 from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it'll have a Joe Biden rejects Russian sphere of influence. Joe Biden, and it says this was recorded 15 years ago, right? 15 years ago. Not last year, 15 years ago. But America has a right for influence. Now, I want you to think about the insanity of America's thinking, of NATO's thinking. Russia has no right. You know what? I'm going to play that. I'm going to put this on the screen for you all. I haven't heard it, so we're going to watch it for the first time. Give me 1 second, okay, everybody? Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. See, we do this on the fly, but I like to prove what I'm saying to you all. I don't like to just say anything and just leave it out there. So hopefully we can pull this up real quick. Let me go on the main computer. Everybody give me a second, okay? Where is it at? Give me 1 second. Has no right to the sphere of influence. All right, we're gonna do this. Let's see if it'll come up. 8 years ago, 4 years ago, 15 years ago. All right, okay. Give me 1 second. Can I pull this back up here? Let me add, let's see if that's it. Okay, now I'm going to play this for you all. Hopefully the sound comes in through, because sometimes it doesn't on your end. If the sound comes through, thumbs up, okay? Put a thumbs up in the chat. So give me a second to play this, and I want you to hear this. Here we are. Let's see. Let's see if it'll play. Hold on, everybody. This is the old video.
As we reset the relationship with Russia, we reaffirm our commitment to an independent Ukraine. And we recognize no sphere of influence or no ability of any other nation to veto the choices an independent nation makes.
Boom. I hope y'all heard that, right? I hope. Let me see in the chat. If you can hear, if anybody heard that, put a thumbs up in the chat, okay? Real quick, before I go to the next video. Audio, okay. Thank you, Ping. All right, there we go. All right, sound is okay. Thank you. It's not me. It's the old video. So if it's rough, it's the old videos. It's not my mics or anything like that. I'm going to play another clip for you. I haven't seen these clips. I'm playing them with you, okay? So let's go with this one.
We can help.
NATO has scheduled a special meeting between allied ambassadors and Russian officials in Brussels next week, aimed at easing tensions over the military buildup along the Ukrainian border. International efforts to diffuse heightening tensions along the eastern region have been ramped up in the past few weeks. Diplomats from the US and Russia will hold talks in Geneva next week. Meanwhile, the EU's Foreign Affairs Chief, Josep Borrell, will arrive in Ukraine this evening to show full support from Brussels for Kiev. Well, for more on this, let's head over to Brussels to speak to Maeve McMahon. Maeve, what's the purpose of Josep Borrell's visit to Ukraine? It comes just days ahead of the talks between the US and Russia in Geneva, but the EU hasn't exactly been invited. Why is that?
Well, good evening, and that is, of course, a very good question, one that's being mulled tonight here in the EU quarter of Brussels. But I guess what the Americans are thinking is they don't want to have 27 voices in that already very tense room on Sunday in Geneva. 27 voices with completely different interests and completely different stances when it comes to Russia, and voices that have lost their main spokesperson when it came to Russia and Russian affairs, and that is Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor of Germany, the only European that Vladimir Putin will actually listen to. And Josep Borrell, for his part, the Foreign Affairs Chief for the European Union, realizes that they have been snubbed. The European Union has been directly left out of this talks, and he made his thoughts clear to the press ahead of that trip to Ukraine today. And he said there'd be no solution to the crisis if the Europeans were not around that table. Onlookers here have also been commenting on the fact that he's now using diplomacy to show that the EU flag is in Ukraine tonight and supporting the people. Take a listen now to Cyril Brett from the Delors Institute.
That Borrell's trip in Kiev and in Ukraine is a way to remind Russia and to remind the US that the European Union has a word to say about that crisis and about I hope, the solution of the crisis.
And it's worth pointing out that hopes for those talks on Sunday in Geneva are quite low. And if they do fail, and they might.
If you're an IT manager dealing with tickets, you must try SysAid. SysAid is an ITSM platform to manage and simplify the entire.
We see that NATO and the EU rejected Russia's sphere of influence, right? We see that Joe Biden rejected Russia's sphere of influence. Now, here's the crazy thing. But NATO can have a sphere of influence, that American can have a sphere of influence. And it is not right for Russia to gobble up former Soviet republics that they have a history with, that they have a religious tie to, that they have genetic and Slavic ties to. That is unconscionable, right? But America, which lies some 9,000 miles away, can use NATO to gobble them up and encroach upon Russia's sphere of influence and push all the way up to Russia's borders. And when Russia deploys troops to its western flank, then NATO starts saying that Russia is building up weapons on NATO's eastern flank. The Orwellian doublespeak here is outrageous. And this is what's pushing the world to war. Because America in the West knows no bounds. They are so used to having their way. They think this is Burger King. Have it your way. It may have been Burger King 10, 20 years ago, but now these nations have what you have. And they're showing that they have what you have. Let's see. Salute to Rashid and all the chat. Thought for the day. If the U.S. sold all of its 8,130 tons of Fort Knox gold, they could pay the interest bill on the 36 trillion. They don't have that, flying crocodile. They don't have that. Why do you think they have that? Huh? You know, they don't have that gold. That's just on paper. Again, they wiped this off the internet, but if you do a diligent search, right? Years ago, I talked about this. I even had the video and the audio clips, right? This was like maybe about 8-10 years ago. I had all of this. That there was, when banks settle debt, they settle it in gold, right? And so, what was going on is there were nations around the world telling America and the UK that they needed their gold, right? And so the US and the UK, they were settling the gold. They were shipping gold to those nations. And so I forget which country it was. It escapes me at this moment. So one country got smart. And when they got their gold, because they come on pallets and stuff, when they got their gold, everything looked nice. You know how they check it for purity. They do this little surface check for purity. Well, this one nation, God, it escapes my mind what nation that was. They took a drill and drilled in maybe an inch. And the layer, I think it was like a 2-inch, maybe like a 1-inch layer of gold over the, and then as they drilled in, they realized that these were tungsten bricks. You know, the big gold bricks, these were tungsten, because tungsten has the same composition as gold. And they were layered in gold. And so they were doing, I wish you guys would do a diligent search on this. And so they were doing back steps. And so they started tracing back the other stuff, and other nations started doing it. And they realized that they were getting tungsten instead of gold. And the US and the UK put whispers out that it was the Chinese doing this, right? So the Chinese helped those nations, and they traced it back. It was London and it was Washington that was settling gold with tungsten cladded. It was gold over the tungsten in shiploads of it, right? This was shut down off the internet. After a while, they used to have videos on YouTube about it. You used to be able to Google it and pull up the manifests on it and everything. You can't even hardly do that. You may have to get on DuckDuckGo or something like that and try to trace back this stuff. But what I'm saying to you is that America's thousands of tons of gold has been gone so long that she don't even know what they look like. Why don't you think that they will audit Fort Knox? Listen, they won't even let the president audit Fort Knox. Why? As Jim Willis said, they have gold in there, just buckets of coins. That's all. And that's why the United States and Britain came up with this Ponzi scheme to keep it going. A gold lease and paper gold. That's what they came up with. Paper gold. You're going to spend the amount for gold. We'll keep it and we'll give you paper. And it's as good as gold. All you have to do is bring the paper to redeem it. And then what they were doing with the gold that they were holding for other nations, they were leasing it out. And they got caught leasing out some of the gold. That's why when Germany asked for its gold back, they only could come up with a couple of tons to give Germany, and told Germany, and Germany didn't have much gold over here. And they told the Germans that it would take at least 10 years for them to repatriate all the gold. It's a Ponzi scheme. I'm telling you, everybody, this is a Ponzi scheme. When I'm telling you right now, I know it's almost hard to believe that this took place. But you're going to see when this thing collapses, when this economy collapses, when the global economy goes into that tailspin that it cannot recuperate from, you're going to see that it has no gold or has little to no gold. That is why that is one of the main reasons why America is so mad with China. It's because the Chinese, they mine gold, and it's illegal for anybody to take the gold out of China. So China mines the gold, keeps it. China buys the gold, keeps it. China buys the gold through Hong Kong, keeps it. China buys gold through Macau, keeps it. China has all of these subsidiaries that buy gold and bring it back into the country. Do you know that China, they call it a communist nation that is against its people? China had mandated its people to buy gold as an insurance policy for the economy. Seriously. Matter of fact, I got an old clip. I played it before. I'm going to play it again since we're talking about this gold thing. This is what I'm saying. A lot of people don't understand how far down the rabbit hole these wars and all of this stuff goes. All of this is interconnected. The empire, which is the UK-US empire, is fighting for their survival, and they are the supreme tricksters, and they're going to do whatever they can to buy a little more time for the empire. Okay? Let me go back to my dashboard real quick. All right? I want you to listen close to this. And this is a British person speaking on this. All right? It's a kind of long clip. It's about 8 minutes. But you don't have, like they say on the movie Friday, you don't have no job. You don't have no place to be. No, I'm just joking with everybody. I know everybody have a job or whatever. But sometimes you got to make light of the situation that is so heavy, okay? So I want you to pay close attention to what this man says about the gold situation, all right?
Gold is some useless, inert asset, right, whose heyday was in the 19th century, as irrelevant to modern finance as the horse is to transport. Maybe not. Today we return to a favourite theme of ours, and once I haven't looked at since probably 2019, and that is, how much gold does China have? And for those with short attention spans who don't want to watch to the end of this video, I'll cut straight to the chase. China has much more gold than it says it does. In fact, it has more gold than the US. Its enormous gold hoards are all part of its grand global reserve currency status designs. Right, now time to back up those assertions. Let's do an audit. Audits involve a lot of numbers, and too many numbers can get a little overwhelming, so I'm going to try and keep these numbers to a mentally digestible minimum. But let me start with perhaps the most important contextual figure and anchor that in your minds, and that is US gold holdings. Official records show that the United States owns some 8,133 tons, most of it in Fort Knox. Although I should say that gold in Fort Knox hasn't been audited for 50 years. The US is the world's largest gold owner, or so you would have thought, and gold comprises 77% of United States foreign exchange reserves. China's officially declared holdings are 1,948 tons, so about a bit less than a quarter of the US, and that makes up just 3% of its $3.2 trillion of foreign exchange holdings. The real number is, of course, much higher than that. China has been the world's largest gold producer since 2007. This past decade, it has produced about 15% of all the gold mined in the world. Last year, it produced 380 tons, which is about 20% more than the world's second largest producer, Australia. And since 2000, China has mined roughly 6,500 tons of gold, and more than half of Chinese gold production is state-owned. China National Gold Corporation alone accounts for 20%. So already, just on Chinese gold production alone, that official 1,948 ton figure looks doubtful. Crucially, China keeps all of the gold it mines. Exporting domestic gold production is not allowed. And with reserves in decline at home, Chinese mining companies have also been buying assets abroad, across Africa, South America and Asia. And international production exceeded domestic production by about 15 tons last year. But as well as being the world's biggest producer, China is also the world's biggest importer of gold. It's hard to get precise import figures, but we do know that, for example, via Hong Kong alone, over 6,000 tons has entered the country since 2000. So if you add that to cumulative gold production since 2000, you get a figure of 13,200 tons. Whether imported, mined or recycled, most of the gold that enters China goes through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the SGE, including the gold imported from Hong Kong. So SGE withdrawals, for which we do have numbers, can act as something of an approximation for demand. And it is possible to get numbers for SGE withdrawals. Since 2008, roughly 20,000 tons have been withdrawn from the SGE. Then we have to add in all the gold held in China, whether as bullion or jewellery, prior to 2000. And the World Gold Council estimates a figure of 2,500 tons in privately held jewellery. If you add domestic mining and official reserves, you arrive at a figure of about 4,000 tons. Now, Nick Laird of Gold Charts Are Us, one of the world's leading gold data experts, has cobbled it all together to produce this chart, which shows cumulative gold held in China to be around 28,911 tons. I've spoken to numerous analysts, Ross Norman, Bron Suchetsky, formerly of the Perth Mint, Koos Janssen, and they all arrive at similar estimates. In addition, there is gold entering China that is not accounted for by SGE withdrawals. Ross Norman points out that the People's Bank of China, the PBOC, likes to buy 12.5 kilo gold bars. They don't trade on the SGE. Also, the PBOC often uses dollars on exchanges in London, Dubai and Switzerland, while the SGE sells its gold in yuan. The army too owns gold and doesn't have to declare its purchases. Remember, there are many state agencies on top of the army and the central bank which buy gold. There's the State Administration of Foreign Exchange and China Investment Corporation, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, to give you two examples. So how much of all that huge hoard is state-owned? 40%? 50%? 60%? But at 50%, the implication is that China owns roughly 14,500 tons. That is 1.8 times more than the US. Now, it may be that only 20 or 30% of that gold is state-owned. I find that unlikely. But even if that's the case, it still owns more than the US. And China has been famously encouraging its citizens to buy gold since 2008. And the SGE has actually stated that only consumers buy gold over exchange. But it almost doesn't matter. This encouragement to buy gold, as one of my readers resident in China reported to me, kicked off a frenzy of laundry as China's citizens rushed to exchange the hordes of hooky cash they'd built up. In his local bank in Shanghai, he said, in 2009, he was standing behind a Chinese bloke who was unlocking bundles of euros, US dollars, Singapore dollars, Swiss francs in exchange for 5-kilo gold bars across the counter. Gold ownership in China is registered, so the government knows how much its citizens have. But it's commonly thought that should Beijing invite private holders of gold to support a major government currency initiative by pledging their gold as a kind of war bond, then there would be a 99% pickup. The vast majority of Chinese trust their government, especially when it comes to returning China to the top of the world. And that means a considerable amount of extra gold can very quickly be mobilized to participate in whatever Beijing is planning. Chinese gold holders don't have the same mistrust of government held by Western gold bugs. The party's seen as a good housewife to the nation. But the disruption it would cause means there's no way China can declare such large official holdings, not yet anyway. There'd be an unwanted surge in both the yuan and the gold price. The government's $3.2 trillion of US dollar foreign exchange reserves would be devalued. And to declare that much gold would be a direct challenge to American supremacy, which China is, I don't think, yet ready for. Parity first, then supremacy. So for now, they follow Deng Xiaoping's doctrine of we must not shine too brightly until everything is ready. President Trump wrong-footed the Chinese, and that and COVID, the great accelerator, may have brought schedules forward. The Chinese president, Xi Jinping, is known as a man of destiny, and he may want the great ascension to happen on his watch. But backing its money, if only in part with gold, as empires on the rise are wont to do, would give China great credibility in a world awash with money printing.
So you see, I'm not making anything up. And while this video was going on, I put in keywords into the search engine on YouTube. And these words, and the reason I tell you this is so that you can do it yourself, so that you don't think that I'm manipulating anything. I want you to be able to have the exact same access to the stuff that I have, so that nobody can fool you or nobody can exploit you or exploit your ignorance of something. So I put in these keywords. Fort Knox has no gold, okay? So I'm going to bring something to the screen in just a second. Let me see if it's on the screen yet. Let me see. I know it's on my other computer. I'm trying to find and see if it's on. Ah, there it is. I'm going to bring this on the screen, okay? Give me 1 second. Let me stop this screen real quick. Stop that screen. Now let me put this screen up. Everybody bear with me. You know, I'm not a tech guy, but I'm bringing this. All right, share. All right, it should be coming up on the screen right now. And I want you to listen to, it should be up now. All right. Here, in the search engine, I put up Fort Knox has no gold. All right. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to have to say about the situation. Okay.
The Federal Reserve. Well, Fort Knox. Okay. No, we don't know, and there's a very good chance it's not there or that it's pledged. I tried to get.
Stop right there. He said it's been pledged. All right, that has been pledged, meaning that they have been leasing out gold to cover their debts. All right. What same thing I just told you guys. So I'm not making anything up, but I want you to listen to this. While we were listening to the other clip, I Googled this and I said, you know what? Let me bring this up for everybody. So I'm going to play it, and I want you to listen. It's only a minute or something. But remember what he just said. We'll play it from the beginning again.
Federal Reserve. Well, Fort Knox. Okay. No, and there's a very good chance it's not there or that it's been pledged. I tried hard to get it out of the Fed as well as the gold, and they're against auditing the gold. Now, I suspect the gold is not there. The Germans decided we're just supposed to hold gold for foreign governments. The Germans asked for their gold, and they did. So, no, once again, you cannot believe the government on what they tell you about the gold. That's why gold should be in the hands of the people. So you should be buying gold and holding the gold. The more you have, the merrier it is. And when the time crisis comes, the better. But no, it's going to be very difficult. What happens, I could conceive of it being pledged and loaned out. And they always figure, well, we'll take care of that later on. But no, nobody has that answer. But I think the fact that they refuse to allow an audit means that there's some difficulty there.
Boom. So everything that I said, we can hold on. Let me remove this. So remove it. Let's see. Hold on one second. Want to see? I'm still doing it. It's everything that I've told you guys have been substantiated just by just a little Google research or a little YouTube research. I haven't made anything up. So he said, even if you walk in there and you see gold, it's probably been, most likely it's been pledged, meaning loaned out or to cover some kind of gamble. Do you know how what he's talking about? Let me give you a better idea of what he's saying. Derivatives, okay? Derivatives are bets on bets on bets on bets on debt, right? So one debt could have 30 bets on it. The same thing with the gold. The gold could be leased out to 30 different players at the same time. This is what he was talking about. So that's why he says the gold should not be in the hands of the government. It should be in the hands of the people. Now, Mr. Ron Paul he advocates for sound money, right? And he advocates for return to the American Republic, right? Now check this out. What nation is it that advocates for their citizens to get and own gold? It's China, right? Bizarro world. I'm telling you this stuff. Bizarro world. And nobody sits down and analyzes this stuff. And I have a long memory when I see something like this. I've always been like that when it comes to geopolitics or stuff, like boom, right? It would come, and later on when everybody forgets about it, I'll bring it up and people will be like, huh? No. And I'll say, yeah, go back and check out this, and this. So we see that the scripts have flipped. China is the one accumulating gold. China is the one that is advocating, demanding that its citizens secure their interest in their wealth by the acquisition and the accumulation of gold. And the United States is dissuading its citizens to acquire and accumulate gold while not allowing its gold reserves to be audited for over 50 years. The scripts have flipped. Right? Rashid didn't make this up. And Flying Crocodile says, now my audio is out of sync. I think it may have been a pause or something on StreamYard. I'm sorry if it is. But, oh my God. Mehdi is in the building. Let's see what Mehdi has to say. Back in the 80s when I was stationed at Fort Knox, the rumor was that was hardly any gold in Fort Knox. It was said that opium for emergency medical supply was stored there. What? And he says, just a rumor. but people have been talking about how much gold is in Fort Knox for years, as you can see. That's right. I-Digit7 Jack says my audio is okay. Thank you. But this is what I'm saying. What you see now is an imploding empire. And the more the empire implodes, the more reckless it becomes. All right. I did a matter of fact, let me see something while I'm talking to you guys. I did a show yesterday for the patrons and the channel members. All right. And I was explaining to them some of the mishaps and some of the things that were happening to me behind closed doors. And I was also playing clips that on my channel that most people forgot about, right? And these clips they are pertinent to the situation that is going on right now. Now, I don't know why I'm looking on my channel, on my main page, and YouTube says there's 22 people watching. I'm looking at my studio block, and it says I have 60 concurrent viewers in the thing. So go figure. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to go back to some. I want to play something that I played on that thing in just a minute. You guys give me a second to pull this stuff up, okay? And also it says that I have excellent internet connection. So if there's dragging, if there's buffering, it's not on my end. This has to come from the StreamYard. So if I pull up something and it's buffering, that's not me. We can go right over here to say excellent internet connection with a green light. Excellent. All right. And I also call my internet server provider, and they sent signal and everything through, and they told me everything was running perfectly. So if something is going on the buffering end or the pausing, it's not me. I want to let you know that, okay? So while I look for this, I want to talk to my to my patrons and my channel members for a second, okay? You know what we were talking about yesterday, and all of the crazy things were happening, right? Do you know? And this is for them; they'll understand what I'm saying. Do you know when we got off of our conversation, our chat together, that the lights in my house started flickering on and off, and the power started going on and off, and it did that for about a minute or so, resetting everything, and then it just shut down. And then after it shut down, it came back up a minute later. You know what we were talking. Those, I know this is off topic for everybody else, but I wanted to share that with my patrons and my channel members because they understand what I'm talking about. Okay, they understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to play this clip by Alex Craner first, and then I'll go to Kiji Noy. All right, and I want you to pay close attention to this. All right. Medi says, hold on before I go anywhere. Medi says at the Red Pill Diaries, I have the same issues when I try to join Defense Politics Asia's open mic. My end is all digitalized and will not remain connected. Well, Medi, you know what that means. You know they're trying to keep you from joining that, right? They're trying to keep you from joining in the conversation. That's what that is. And soon, when we're going to hook it up where some of the streams or whatever will be where you can actually get in and voice your opinion. I'm talking about live on camera, all right? Or we'll do it, if you don't want to do it live on camera, we'll do it where you can talk audio, or whatever like that. We're trying to put some stuff together for you guys, all right? So it's going to take a minute because I'm not versed in the internet. So, but Perseverance Chameleon also says, I think the Nixon government knew that they didn't have enough gold. Well, that was the whole thing about the gold and silver standard. Before I play what I'm saying, let me address what Perseverance Chameleon said. He said, I think the Nixon government knew that they didn't have enough gold. That may have been why they came off the gold standard. That's not maybe, that is why. Listen, America's spending exceeded what she had in gold reserves. this caught the eye of a lot of people, but specifically it caught the eye of Charles de Gaulle of France. And he was like, he got his people on it. Hey, if America has this amount of gold and these budgets are like this, then how is this sustainable? Bring me a write-up on all of this stuff. And so when Richard Nixon found out about it, Richard Nixon says there are some who question America's commitment to gold and America's economy. Well, let me tell you, and I'm paraphrasing, America's dollar is as good as gold. And then Charles de Gaulle was sitting back like this. Okay, you say America's dollar is as good as gold, then give me gold then. Give me my gold. I want to redeem it. And so he started redeeming the dollars for gold, and other nations started doing it. So Richard Nixon was forced to take the world off the gold and silver standard. Then he blamed it on the people who wanted their gold. Richard Nixon blamed it on the people who wanted to honor the agreement that America had agreed to. And so, but it didn't start in 71, as I told you all. America had defaulted on her gold in the early 20s, I believe it was, in the early 30s. She had defaulted then. That's when she forced all of the citizens to turn in their gold. She had defaulted on her debt then. But it started it started speeding up, snowballing, because she started robbing her currency of silver. So after the 1960s, you couldn't find the silver nickels too much, right? I think it was nickels. Then they started robbing the dimes and the quarters. So after the 64 upwards into 65, they completely robbed the dimes and the quarters of their silver content. So what was left was dollars and half dollars, coins. And up into 69 and 70, they robbed it all of that, right? So then they because they had to feed the beast. This is something that the economists don't tell you. All one has to do is look at when they started taking the contents of silver out of the coins. Why would they do that? Because they needed that as a back. Because remember, the dollar is not just backed by gold, it's backed by gold and silver. Gold and silver. That's why any note that's $2 and under is redeemable in silver, and any note that was above that was redeemable in gold. It was gold and silver. And that's why I said the gold and silver standard. We just say the gold standard, but it was the gold and silver standard, right? And when it got to the 70s, America was going at such a pace that de Gaulle and the other people challenged America, and in 71 forced Richard Nixon's hand to take the world off the gold and the silver standard. And they had to come up with some kind of Ponzi scheme, and they did that by the petrodollar to keep the dollar as the world reserve currency. So Perseverance Chameleon is not a maybe. That is a surety that Nixon took the world off the gold and the silver standard because America no longer had the gold or the silver that would be substantial enough to quiet the noise that America had spent her gold and silver in Fort Knox. So that's what that was about. And so let me see something. Let me bring this up on the screen. So everybody, I didn't mean to take you to school, but I don't like to leave things out there, and I like to address these things so that what is this going on here? I know YouTube is not tripping. Hold on one second, everybody. YouTube. Hold on. My YouTube dashboard is disappearing. Boy, I tell you what, they will not give a brother a fair chance for nothing. But listen, let me go to the YouTube. All right. So this should come up on our screen. Let me look on my screen for a second and see if it's up there. Okay. All right, it's up there. So now we're going to go to Alex Craner. All right. So everybody, listen to what he has to say about the debt Ponzi scheme that's imploding. All right. And I'm going to rewind it because it needs to be rewind. Is it going to? What are they doing? Come on, YouTube.
Feel like just a number with just those algo software providers at ATN, you're a partner.
Made about 47.
Let me rewind it back right here. Why is it buffering?
Probably correct, negative, right? Because the United States government today has surpassed $33 trillion in debt. It's paying more than $1 trillion in interest on that debt. We're just talking about the federal government's debt. Mm-hmm. If you add the private debts, households and businesses, you reach something like 90 plus, I think, $91 trillion in debt. These are absurd. These are preposterous numbers. And, an economy whose GDP is less than $33 trillion per year cannot have a top credit rating. That's just the boring math of it. But if you went to your bank and you were spending 3 times what you were earning, they wouldn't give you credit.
Right. That is exactly the example that I was using right before you joined us. I was telling the people, I was like, you try to go to the bank and you were spending 5, 10, 20, 30 times what you're putting in. They would send you out the door selling and tell you don't come back this way until you can get your debt under control. Why do you think that America continues to, because this is connected, the debt crisis and her provocative actions around the globe, why aren't there any adults in Washington, D.C., and why don't they look at the entire geopolitical situation and say, maybe if I pull back and stop antagonizing everybody, the very people who I'm dependent upon for their generosity to buy my debt, maybe they will buy more debt. But if I continue to antagonize them, they're going to sell the debt.
Well, that's centuries-old stories of empires. For you and I, and for any ordinary person and ordinary business in the country, and I'm not in the United States, but the same principle applies everywhere. We could all get along really well, trade with one another, because there's stuff I would like to buy from American businesses, and there is stuff that American people would like to buy from France, Croatia, China, wherever. And in that case, we could simply live in peace and trade with each other. And, if somebody spent too much and produced too little, their currency would get punished, their credit rating would get punished, exporting countries would be hesitant to export their goods to them because they would worry about getting paid and so forth. And then that country would have to maybe tighten the belt and improve their production or reduce their imports and basic economic policy. The problem is that what you and I think about these things and the way you and I would deal with these problems is not the same when it comes to the imperial factions, which are basically the very narrow networks of powers that are clustered around the global banking cartel and the mega corporations that have grown up around them. Now, banking and empire usually go together, particularly the kind of banking and the kind of monetary system that we have in place today. And I'll try to explain in a simple terms that I can think of it. Basically, today's monetary system is, we have fiat currencies backed by nothing other than, trust and confidence. And we have fractional reserve banking, okay? All the money that goes into circulation represents debt. If there were no debt in the system, there would be no money in the system, zero, not a single dollar. And so for any money to be in circulation, somebody has to go into debt. Debt becomes assets on the books of the banks. So the banks, your debt is bank's assets. Your liability, right? That's the bank's assets. Now, given that the debt has to be paid back with interest, but only the principal goes into circulation, the whole system functions like a large Ponzi scheme, because the only way that you can pay your debt plus interest is to earn it from other people who have to go into debt for whatever reason, for consumption, for mortgages, for business development, for infrastructure development, whatever. But people have to keep going into debt, and the system is only stable for as long as it grows. So that's why we have this imperative of always growing the economy, the GDP growth. Even when everybody's satisfied, everybody has everything they need, and maybe they only need to make minor purchases, there's always this imperative for the whole system to grow so that people go more into debt and buy more crap so that more crap can be produced. And the government has to keep going deeper and deeper into debt. That's symptomatic. That's across the world, every government, every nation that has this monetary system in place. And that's pretty much all nations in the world today. Now,
all right. So we have that. And I'm gonna play another clip shortly, but I want to go back to the chat for a minute. Jonathan Soul, he says, "Preach, Jonathan. For some reason, you're not showing up in the chat, man. I see you over here, but I don't see you in the chat here or there. I don't know how this is working. This is crazy the way they're doing this. But I wanted to acknowledge you just in case. Also, I got to go to Perseverance Chameleon and offer my apologies. I just saw your message, Perseverance Chameleon, and I'm gonna read it. Hold on 1 second. At Rashid, I'm actually a lady, not trans, for avoidance of doubt. I just saw that. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Charge it to my head and not to my heart. Okay. But excuse me. I want to play some. My screen's just okay. There we are. I want to play something on this thing. So everybody give me just be patient with me, because it takes time for me to find this. We're doing this live, and I'm pulling this stuff up like live. So my chat is going in. I like that. My chat is they're really conversing with each other. And that's what I like, because we're all a part of this, and we're all looking for answers, and we're all looking at the problems and saying, hey, why aren't any of these so-called leaders dealing with the reality of today? Why are they giving us this foolishness that they always do? And I think I found what I'm looking for. Hold on. Here we are. Come on. YouTube. Hold on, everybody. I think it was down here. Oh, man. Hold. You guys got to wait 1 second. Oh, shout out. Thanks for the super. I'm going to have to highlight the super chat. And just say, I just looked to the side and saw the super chat. I really appreciate it. Hold on. I want to give you a just due. I don't want to be a sidebar, okay? Let me see if I can find this real quick. I guess I'm going so fast that I can't. It's something by Kiji Noy, okay? I know I just passed Kiji Noy, but I'm looking to see if the other video is down lower, and if not, I'll go back up high. I really want you to see it. You see how slow YouTube is up loading the videos. Let's see. Kiji. Come on, Kiji. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. So it's not no dead space. Let me play a little clip while I'm looking for this, because this is very important. And it'll be a short clip. All right. It's important that we do this. Let me yeah, I'll go to this.
Along with Syed Mohsen Abbas, journalist and political commentator, joining us out of London. Professor Matt Andy, we're going to start with you. We know you're on a limited schedule, so we'll start with you, sir. Your initial thoughts on this aggression by the entity, the Zionist entity, against our country?
It was an expected attack. It was a large attack. Fortunately, Iran's air defenses proved to be very capable. A large number of missiles, I think the majority of the missiles, were brought down. And the Iranians also used decoys and dummies, and intelligence disinformation was used to mislead the Israeli regime in striking fake targets. And some of the missiles simply missed. So the Israeli regime failed in this attack. It was nothing of comparison to the Iranian strike a few weeks ago. And I think it's a clear indication not only of Iran's defense capabilities, but also of the fact that the Israeli regime is not the powerful entity that it pretends itself to be. It has mythologized its power for decades with the help of the West. Of course, all of its capabilities belong to the West. The regime has nothing of its own. All its planes, its ammunition, its missiles, everything comes from the West, literally. Even those things that are made in Palestine, they are done with Western funding. So the myth of the power of the Israeli regime has been shattered. And we also see the same in Gaza, and more recently on the border between Palestine and Lebanon. For a month now, the Israeli regime has been saying that they're going to take a chunk of land in Lebanon, the southern part of Lebanon. And just yesterday, a senior military official has said that the operation in Lebanon is almost over, and that's quite extraordinary because they failed to make any inroads in Lebanon. So we see their military failure at the hands of Hezbollah. We see their failure in Gaza, and of course we see their failure. We saw their failure last night against and early this morning against the Islamic Republic of Iran.
And Professor, before we let you go, one last quick question. The challenge is now moving forward. How do you see Iranian leadership navigating? It's a precarious situation, isn't it? Because if the Zionist entity is trying to push for regional escalation to pit Iran against the Americans, Iran has to be cautious there, but it also cannot leave this latest, and a lot of Iranian officials have said it will not leave any attack unanswered.
The era of strategic patience is over. Iran, when the Israelis and the Americans carried out a cyber attack on its nuclear program years ago, Iran didn't retaliate. When they murdered Iranian scientists, including a colleague of mine at the University of Tehran, Iran didn't retaliate. In Syria, when they were aiding ISIS and Al-Qaeda and murdered Iranian officers who were fighting against them, Iran showed strategic patience. But after the bombing of the Iranian embassy, Iran retaliated. After the murder and martyrdom of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, the leader of Hamas, Iran retaliated. And Iran will retaliate again, because Iran has to make sure that deterrence is established. And Iran has the power to do that. The Israeli regime knows that. The Americans know that. So there will be retaliation. And one other thing that I'd like to add is that a lot of intelligence has been gathered about U.S. military technology last night and this morning. And I'm sure there are countries that would very much like Iran to share that information with them. And I'm quite confident that the Iranians will do that.
Thank you, Professor. Pleasure to have you on. Stay safe. And thank you once again, Sayyid Mohammad Marandi, professor out of the University of Tehran. They're joining us from the Iranian capital state.
All right. Before we go into that, let me take this off the screen 1 second. I don't want to delete this. Hold on 1 second. Okay, still there. Okay. I want to, the reason I did that for a second, I'm going to bring it right back up. But the reason I did that is because I want to give a shout out to Flying Crocodile. Thank you, Flying Crocodile, for a $5 super chat. I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul. I really, really appreciate it because I know in these economic times, every penny counts and everybody is struggling. And, I understand that. And for someone to donate, it brightens my day, but it also shows that maybe I am helping to make a difference. Because when you take your hard-earned money, whether it's $1 or $5, and you put it towards the cause of truth, it does something to me. So I don't want to get choked up on the air, but it is what it is. I'm real. I'm a real person. So thank you, Flying Crocodile. And I'm gonna leave that up there for a minute, but I want to go to some. I'm gonna bring this back up on the screen, okay? And I want to play something for you guys. I played this on the show last night. I want you to listen to what Kiji Noy has to say about how America is becoming more dangerous in her decline, okay? And I might have to rewind it a little bit.
Hey guys, so we all know how important it is to have a really strong back when you're in tactical. Number of awkward objects you pick up, weird angles, you got to be bulletproof.
Okay. Okay, we'll do it. We're gonna come from the beginning. And now I don't know what's going on with YouTube, so it should be playing right now. Everybody, this is not me. This has to be YouTube because I have excellent connection. Come on, stop buffering. Footing her grip on the Middle East because of this hypocrisy, this blatant hypocrisy and imperial hubris that is being shown to the Muslim world, to the Middle Eastern and North African region over this Palestinian conflict?
I think it is. I think it is losing its footing. I mean, you already Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was the United States, one of the United States' most important proxies, along with Israel. It was what the United States used to prevent national liberation movements in the Middle East, Baathism and other national social movements. This was the kind of bulwark against that. And it was also the basis of the US petrodollar, which allows the United States to have this unlimited credit card that it spends because the US dollar is based on it being the reserve currency, which is tied to its being the peg for the petrodollar. And the fact that Saudi Arabia is slipping out of its orbit, and where Saudi Arabia goes, the other Gulf states go. And you see the Gulf states are building relations with China and the Belt and Road and the BRICS. Then you see that there is a kind of foundational centrifugal force that's happening. And the US is no longer able to exert its will in this arbitrary and unitary way as it was able to. But the problem with this is that this is a very, very dangerous moment, because as the empire weakens, as it senses its power waning and slipping away from its grasp, it becomes more dangerous. To give you an analogy, it's like the drunk at the bar, and the bar is closing. You know, the final call has been given, the bar is closing, and the drunk is drunk with power. It's drunk with power, but it has maxed out its credit cards, okay? and it struck out with everybody. And it's time to go home. It's time for the empire to go home. But doesn't want to go home. The drunk doesn't want to go home. And what it wants is it wants a fight. It wants to have a fight. It's going to have a fight. It's not going to go home. It just wants to pick a fight. And if it has to take on the entire bar, it will. And that's kind of the mindset of the neocon dead enders who believed that it was their mandate starting the 90s to rule the planet. They refer to it as unipolar global hegemony. That's just a fancy word for boss of the world. They believed that they were the boss of the world, and they believed that they should and could do anything in order to do that, and nobody could have a say. In fact, one of the neocons said, it's our job to pick up a small country and throw it against the wall every few years just to show who's boss. This is what they said. They said, we create our own reality. The rest of you can study it. We make our own reality. That was the kind of hubris and arrogance that fueled this imperial project, this neocon imperial project. And now this power is waning and they're becoming frantic. And so they want to take on the world. One war in the Ukraine is not enough. The second war, a genocide in the Middle East, is not enough. They want a third war, right? 2 wars and a genocide are not enough. Now they want to also go to war with China. And I assure you, there is no way that that can have any chance of being successful. But this is their hubris. This is how they think. And they would rather see the end of the planet than the end of their power, because the end of their power is the end of the world for them. They'd rather see the end of the world than the end of their imperial privilege and power. And that's why this moment is so dangerous.
Haven't I been telling you guys that? Haven't I been saying that to you guys? I've been telling you that these people are insane. As I tell you often, when I was in high school, my older sister used to always tell me, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. She would always tell me that. Now listen, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. And that stuck with me. And she got that from my mom. And that stuck with me. And so there are a lot of pundits. And before I get into this, I miss my guy Dolan. I got to give Dolan some credit. I miss my guy Dolan on here. So everybody, you're going to have to, I'm going to come back to this subject in a sec, but I got to give Dolan his credit. Hold on one second, everybody, because I missed it. And I looked to the other side and saw my guy Dolan. Every time I turn around, Dolan is supporting the show. Let me see. It's flipping. This thing is going so fast. Dolan, hold on, man. I got to give you your credit also, because I missed you in the thing, and this thing is jumping. I just had you, and it just clicked you right off. I don't know if they're doing this to mess with me. There we are. Got to put you. Thank you, Dolan, for the $2 super chat from the depth of my heart to the depth of my soul. Thank you, man. We really had good chat yesterday. Real good chat. You and I and Perseverance Chameleon and the others that were listening. We really had a good chat. We're going to do it more often. We got another channel member and another Patreon stream coming up this week. And I feed off you guys too. But I want to go back to something, and I'm going to leave that up there for a second also. You hear all of these pundits, and I'm not knocking anybody, but they give their perspective because they have, touched elbows with these people in government. They have been in government. They know a lot of people and all of this stuff. And they always manage to give the benefit of the doubt to the government. There's no way we would go to nuclear war. No, there's no way such and such would do this. There's no way they would do this, and this. And then you would see the posturing, the military and the political and the economic posturing that's telling us otherwise, right? And then one would look at the track record of these governments, and one would say, why would you give them the benefit of the doubt? These are the same nations that went to World War I. The same ones that took us to World War II. And you don't believe that they're going to take us to World War III, or that they're not planning for nuclear war when they're building silos 1 mile deep in the earth, stocked with food and water and oxygen for them and their families while you're up here, right? And they're preparing. Now listen, people say, well, they're making preparations. Okay, just in case. Okay, I'll grant you that. Aren't these the same people funding the nuclear weapons programs? So just in case they decide to go to war, nuclear, they have something that they're going to bury them and their families in for centuries while you die above ground. Don't tell me that these people are not lunatics and not ready to take the world to war when they are stoking a war against the most powerful nuclear armed state on the face of the planet, which is Russia. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that they're not bargaining and positioning themselves for a war when they are pre-positioning. And I told you before they took out Nasrallah, I told you before they hit that consulate in Syria, and I told you before they assassinated those other people that America was pre-deploying weapons, warships, radars, missiles, and troops to the region. It's just coming out now. Go look at my track record also on this. I told you that because someone told me. And now it's, Israel used 83 bunker busting bombs on a 6-block radius. Where did they get the bunker busters from? Huh? In America, right? Right? Of course they did. Now here it is right here. I want you to think about this. This was all pre-planned. America shipped bunker busters. She shipped everything that Israel used to try to decapitate Hezbollah months in advance. Months in advance. These weapons were not used in the Gaza offensive. So they were there for a reason. So America lured Nasrallah and his crew out. How? By agreeing to a ceasefire and agreeing to the demands that were made by the Lebanese resistance to say Israel has to stop these overflights. They have to stop bombing. They have to stop doing this and this and this. And America and Israel agreed to it. So Nasrallah and his crew let their guard down. And when they let their guard down and America could ping them on satellite where they were going. Now, mind you, the day before that, the United States had already bombed in Syria, taking out an Iranian colonel, his chief of staff, and all of that stuff in Syria. That was an act of war against Syria and against Iran. But Iran did nothing. So the next day, America pinged the convoy and pinged the movements of Nasrallah and his crew with the help of agents inside of Lebanon. And they went for a decapitation strike. This didn't happen out of the blue. The pre-positioning of weapons did not allow for that to happen out of the blue. And then America steps back and says, hey, I had nothing to do with it. This was Israel. Israel, regardless of what everybody says, Israel and America and the UK are one and the same. They're one and the same. And they're pushing the world to the brink of all-out war because they're losing their position. As a matter of fact, let's hear what Donald Trump has to say. And this here, what I'm going to play is 21 seconds. This is why things are being unleashed. This is why Kiki Noy said what he had to say, that as America's decline, And when we talk about America, we talk about Britain too, and we talking about Israel too. As America declines, speeds up, she becomes more dangerous. She becomes more belligerent. That's why she's poking the bear. That's why she's poking the dragon. That's why she's turned on India. That's why she's trying to wage war against Iran, because she sees these people as possible heirs to her so-called throne. And she would rather destroy planet Earth than to leave this in a position for someone else to rule. That's in their mind. Kiji just told you that. I've been telling you that for years. But I want you to listen with the main reason, one of the main reasons why this is underway. Listen to Donald Trump.
We're losing the dollar as the standard because of these people that are so, if we lose the dollar as the standard, that's like losing a war, and it'll never happen with me. There's no way that will happen with me. We got to put it back together. We cannot, that is like losing a war.
See, 21 seconds. Let's play it again. But the first part is the most important part. Listen to what he says.
We're losing the dollar as the standard because of these people that are so, if we lose the dollar as the standard, that's like losing a war, and it'll never happen.
Boom. If we lose the dollar as the standard, that's like losing the war. What war is he talking about? The war for economic, political, and military hegemony, because all of the US, the UK, and NATO's power is based off the dollar. That is why America doesn't have to worry about spending. She can spend more than the top 15 nations put together. She can bribe nations. As long as the dollar is the reserve currency, it is the lifeblood of the empire. That's why the British pound is tied to it. That's why the euro is tied to it. To lose the dollar as the reserve currency would collapse the pound and the euro, which means that Europe would become destitute overnight. That means Britain would become destitute overnight. That means the American empire, the US, UK empire would cease to exist. It would have no funding. And guess what happens after that? Guess what happens? Oh, it might happen while that's going on. That means there will be troops coming home, bases closing up, and how America and the West were able to export inflation to the other nations, it would come back to the shores of the West in a debilitating form as an economic tsunami, the likes of which we've never seen before. They understand that. That's why Richard Wolff has this to say about the debt that America owes to China. Matter of fact, this is 59 seconds. I'm going to play this and I'm going to cut it short after that. I've had y'all for almost 2.5 hours. But we can go and go and go and go and go because I love this stuff. But I want you to pay close attention to this.
If China owns $800 billion of U.S. debt, which they do, then of course the United States, as the borrower, has to pay interest, which means that you and I and everybody else gets to pay taxes every year that go to Washington, where they don't fund our roads or schools or hospitals. It's money that the United States government collects and sends to Beijing to pay interest on the debt. And the Chinese use to develop the Red Army. Do you understand? All of this has to happen beneath the surface. Because if Americans understood what I just said, they would realize that beneath all the reality is the opposite. That's the reality of the economic of capitalism.
You see, I see. Chris says, I'm. This thing is jumping. So if I skip over your comments, I'm sorry. Man, this is rough. How can anyone trust the U.S. enough to make peace when the U.S. does underhanded stuff like that? Yeah, that's what they did. But listen, that's how they did General Soleimani. Most people don't know that General Soleimani helped the United States in another effort years back before his assassination. So they called on him again. Listen to me good. They called on him again. They reached out, and this was under Donald Trump. They reached out to him because General Soleimani, they knew this man was a strategic thinker, and they brought him in. And as soon as his convoy was identified, from when his plane landed, and they identified the car that he was in, the United States sends drones over there. Immediately on the taxi route, the United States assassinates General Soleimani, blowing him up. Blowing him up. That was an act of war. This man was touted to be the next Ayatollah. So when Biden says that if official, we would take that as a declaration of war, what the hell do you think you did? Huh? They lured him over there, asking him for help with ISIS, asking him for help with Al Qaeda. He went to give them a strategic plan. He and his staff. They killed him and his staff. They killed an Iraqi general and his staff also. No respect for life. No respect for agreements. What did Vladimir Putin say? The Americans are agreement incapable. That's what he said. And we're seeing it. So the nations no longer trust her. And it's about time. So what is happening? The American empire is being isolated. She's been isolated politically. She's been isolated economically. And she's been isolated militarily. And all of the levels of power from media to the IMF to everything has been challenged. And that shows you where we are in the fall of America. A lot of people want you to give it to them with these glory visions of something. Listen to me good. All empires fall. All empires. And when they finally do fall, they never reconstitute themselves because of the egregious acts that they have committed while in power. If God is a just God, and he is, then God has to serve justice to those who thought that they were God. Those who thought that they could do and say and handle people any kind of way without any repercussions. America and Britain are not the exception to the rules. This is what we have to understand. You may love America. You may love the UK. But that does not supersede the laws of God, the laws of nature. What goes around comes around. What you put out, you get back in. All of that stuff has to come back. And when it comes back in a major, devastating form. And this is what Americans and British and European nations are going to have to come to grips with. They're going to have to come to grips with this because it is coming in full form right in front of us. You cannot bomb, occupy, murder, overthrow, assassinate people for decades and think that this is not coming back on you. Right? It's coming. And we see it right now with the collapse of the dollar. The decline of the dollar, the collapse of the American and Western economy, the collapse of Western hegemony, the collapse of all of the Western-dominated institutions, and the emergence of a more fair, more just world. BRICS is not that, something better to come. BRICS is a sign of something outside of what we're used to. It's a stepping stone to get where we're going, into a fairer, more equitable, and more just world. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth. Listen, we have a show tomorrow. Join us. Same bat time, same bat channel. And also remember, Thursday, we'll have RT journalist Helen Beninsky on the platform at 5 Central Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. So on that note, Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous, and remember to do right by others, not because other people are watching or because you want something out of the deal. Do it because it's the right thing to do, because even when no one else is watching, God's eyes is always on you. Hey, mama, look at me. Your baby boy still loves you more than life. Thank you, everybody. Deuces. We're out of here. Peace.